complicated than it is. All we mean by changing the subject is we're going to change an equation like this one here, and we're going to get it in the form y equals something. So we're making y the subject, it's just rearranging it so we make it y equals something. So we're going to have to do some things to some equations, but we need to make sure that they're still in balance. So I'll put my pen down there. Y plus w must be the same as c. So whatever I do to the left hand side, I must do to the right hand side. So I can add things into both sides, I can subtract from both sides, I can multiply both sides of the equation by the same thing, and I can divide by the same thing. As long as I do the same operation to both sides, that equation is going to stay in balance. Okay, and I'm going to want to do the opposite operation to the one that I've got in the question. So in this case here, I've got y plus w is equal to c. I want to get rid of this plus w. I want the y on its own. So I want to do the opposite of adding w. So to both sides, I'm going to so that's why I've done the opposite operation. I've done it so that it gets rid of it, cancels it out. On the right hand side I've got c, and I need to remember to take the w away. I've taken it away from both sides, from the left, and then I've taken it away from the right hand side. So we've actually finished that question. That question is y equals c minus w. So y equals something, I've made y the subject. Next one, we've got 3y is equal to c. So remember I've got 3y, what I actually mean by that is 3 times y. So I want to do the opposite operation to multiplying by 3. So if I divide both sides of my equation by 3, then I've got 3 divided by 3, well that's 1, so I've got 1 lot of y, 1 lot of y, I don't need to write that 1 in front of it, and that's equal to c divided by 3. Now I've written that as a fraction, because remember all that fraction line means is divide by, so c divided by 3. I could have written it as c divided by 3, it's exactly the same. Normally though, when we're writing our algebraic expressions, we normally use the fraction line and write it like that, so that's just a little bit more common. Right, let's have a look at another example. We've got 2y plus x equals 4, and we're still trying to make y the subject. At this time I'm doing two things to my y. I'm multiplying it by 2, and I'm adding x to give me the value 4. I'm going to try and get rid of this plus x first. This plus x is held a lot less tightly than this multiply by 2. So I'm going to do the opposite operation to adding x. So to both sides of my equation, I'm going to take x away. So on the left, I am left with 2y, my plus x, take away x, that cancels. And then on the right, I've got my 4, and then I need to remember to take away my x. So I've got 2y is equal to 4 minus x. So it's already looking a bit better. Instead of having one lot of y though, I've got 2 lots of y. So I've got 2 times y. I want to do the opposite operation to multiplying by 2, and that's going to be to divide by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, so I've got 1 lot of y, and that's equal to 4 minus x divided by 2. I've written it as a fraction. You need to make sure if you do that your fraction line is nice and long. It needs to cover all of the 4 minus x, because I need to divide both parts of those by 2. So 4 minus x all divided by 2. I could have written it as 4 minus x divided by 2, but if I do write it like that, I need to remember to put my brackets in, because I'm dividing the 4 minus x by the 2. I'm not just dividing that x by the 2. Okay, so either put your brackets in, divide by 2. Slightly better to write 4 minus x fraction line, so divided by 2. Again, we finished, so we've got y equals something, so we've made y the subject. Another example, 3y minus x equals 6. This one's similar to the one we've just done above. In this case, I want to get rid of this minus x first. I want to do the opposite operation to subtracting x, and that's going to be to add x to both sides. So I've got 3y is equal to 6 plus x. So we've added x, cancels with this subtract x, added it to the right hand side, we've done the same, equations in balance. I've then got 3 lots of y. Well, I don't want 3 lots of y, I want 1 lot of y. So I want to do the opposite of multiplying by 3, which is to divide by 3, and that's going to give me y equals 6 plus x divided by 3. Again, we've got y equals something, so we've changed the subject, made y the subject of the equation. A couple more examples. Let's look at this one at the top. Y divided by 3 is 4. This one we can actually solve. The rest of the ones that we've looked at, we've just rearranged the equation. We're still left with an equation at the end of the question. This one we can actually work out a value for y. And what we're doing, we've got this fraction line again, this divide by 3. Remember, all it means is divide by 3. So I want to do the opposite operation, which is to multiply by 3. So I divide by 3 and then multiply by 3. I'm going to be left with my plain y, 1 lot of y. I need to do the same on the right hand side, so my multiply by 3. So I've got 4, multiply it by 3. Oh, I know what that is. Y is equal to 12. So I've changed the subject, but I've done more than that. I've actually solved the equation and I've got my value of y. Next one, we've got y divided by 2, subtract 2 is equal to w. Again, this time I want to get rid of this, take away 2 first. The take away, the adding and the subtracting, sort those out before you work out either a division or a multiplication. So I want to do the opposite of subtract 2. That's going to be to add 2. So on the left hand side I've got my y divided by 2. Subtract 2, add 2, it's going to cancel. That's why I've added the 2 in the first place. And I've got w plus 2. Getting close, but I've got this y divided by 2. So I want to do the opposite of dividing by 2, and that's multiplying by 2. So on the left I've got y, and on the right I've got w plus 2, and I want to multiply the whole thing by 2. So I can either put my brackets around it, multiply by 2. I normally write that with the 2 in front of my brackets, w plus 2. Last example, this one's quite tricky. They have been getting more tricky as we go through. This one we've got a squaring. So we've got x squared plus 4 is equal to y, and this time we're making x the subject. So at the moment we've already got y the subject, we've got y equals x squared plus 4, but we're making x the subject instead. So we're trying to get x on its own. So I'm going to get rid of that plus 4 first. So if I subtract 4 from both sides, I'm left with x squared is equal to y take away 4. This time though I've got this x squared. I haven't got x, I'm taking my x and I'm squaring it. So to work out what x is on its own, I want to do the opposite of squaring. The opposite of squaring is going to be to take the square root of both sides. So on the left we've got x is equal to the square root of y minus 4. So I've square rooted my x squared. That leaves me my x. That's why I've done it in the first place. Then on the right hand side I need to square root as well. So square root of y minus 4. I've written this as a large square root sign. That tail must cover everything that I want to square root. It must go all the way over my y minus 4. I could have written it as square root of y minus 4, but if I do that I must make sure I've got some brackets in, because I'm not just square rooting my y, I have to take the 4 away first and then square root it. So either of those are fine. If you're writing it with a square root, it must cover all of that y minus 4. Otherwise, put your brackets in. Okay. I hope that helps. Go back and have a look at some of those questions. Give them a go. If you get stuck on any of them, then just drop me another line and I'll work them through. Okay. Bye.